Hello and welcome back to the Conclusion of the Matter podcast. I'm Robbie Santiago, joined by Ren Ferguson and Ryan Weaver.
Oh.
And we are the Conclusion of the Matter. Solomon writes in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verses 13 and 14, "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter, fear God and keep his commandments." Feeling like I'm going to shorten it this time just because. But that's if you read it out of the New King James. It'll say something basically the same, but not use conclusion of the matter in other translations. If you have questions for us that you'd like to have answered or topic suggestions, you can email us at theconclusionofthematter@yahoo.com, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. But I believe we only have 7-ish episodes left in this season.
One, I think.
So be getting those in quick if you'd like for us to cover it by the end of the year and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to Ren for this particular topic for today.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, glad that everybody's come back for another episode. Today, we're going to be looking at a question that was not submitted, just one that I guess
You submitted.
Yeah, I guess I submitted, but I just thought it would be a good conversation, interesting conversation about why are we Christians. I obviously, with the nature of my work, I study a lot of different, obviously Christian doctrines, but also have tried to study and learn more about various world religions and other systems of faith, and just have asked myself quite a bit in the past of why is this the system that I believe and adhere to, and thought that might be a good thing for us to discuss. And so I'll just open it up to you guys. Why are y'all Christians?
Well, kind of you hit on some of this. I think it just, to me, it's the most logical. And when you think of apologetics such as the existence of God, the fact that Jesus, he's the most documented human in history. But not only that, there's, evidence for even his deity, for God's existence, the creation of the world, and just the fact that how human history is unfolded with Jesus. I think of the prophecies that he fulfilled. You could really look no further than that. The odds that he fulfilled, rather, 365, give or take, prophecies is statistically impossible. But then you look at all of the witnesses, both secular and his own disciples and apostles, people that are literally willing to go to the grave for that. I think of that. I think of, ultimately, I want to go to heaven one day, and it's a pretty good motivation for me. And when you think of just how wonderful heaven would be, I even kind of broke that down. I think not only will heaven be physically beautiful, in Revelation it talks about the streets of gold, the river of life, all these different physical things that you will get to see there. But also I think of the fact that there will be no suffering, and it'll be a place of rest, a place of peace, a place of worshiping God with all of the other Christians and saints. There's various aspects of heaven that that are just incredibly wonderful and appealing, and just something that I often look forward to. So those, I think, logically are my two main reasons, thinking of it and comparing it to other world religions. If you were to compare Christianity to Islam, there's a lot of moral inconsistencies with Islam that I would find there. But then these other man-made religions, I don't know that I want to go down the rabbit hole of Hinduism, but a lot of that doesn't add up. And even many aspects of Buddhism, there's a little bit with reincarnation and things like that. That's just, I find it the most morally consistent and logical and non-contradictory, in my opinion, plus the hope of heaven one day.
Well, before we started the episode, my answer was go to heaven. Robbie stole it, so I got to come. No, I think that should be one for everybody. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's the hope that we have. I mean, we talk about why do we have faith? Well, we have faith because, to Robbie's point, there's evidence that points to Christ, that points to whether you're talking about creation, whether you're talking about did Christ exist, did he die, did he raise, all that stuff. Ren and I were talking briefly before this. He's got a book on his desk about the resurrection of Christ, written by from a historical standpoint. He said it's pretty deep. So there's a lot of history involved that we can prove that Jesus lived, Jesus died, not in the tomb.
Yeah.
From various factors, whether we take the New Testament as all we use, but also I think secular history helps us a lot of times. Archaeological finds help us, prove the existence of God, prove the accuracy of the Bible, things like that. What I didn't know, are you talking Christendom as a whole, or because you mentioned world religions and you started going down you didn't go down the rabbit hole, but you mentioned a few, but are you talking about New Testament Christianity versus denominations in the Christendom world?
I was talking about kind of more so what Robbie
Okay.
was talking about as
Okay.
Christianity. I mean, we can go down that as well. But
I was just from that standpoint, I was going to say that a lot of denominations in the Christendom world have their own set of rules. They have their own creed books and extra manuals and big not corporations, but
headquarters
and
synods and councils
many meetings and
yeah.
all that kind of stuff, big membership meetings and stuff, and a lot of that I don't see in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was going to go that route, but it's like I don't. If you don't have, and I was trying to find the verse before Robbie got finished, and I thought I was almost there, but I think it's when Paul was in Athens.
17.
Yeah, 17 and 17, 26, and 27. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and boundaries of their habitation, that they would seek God, if perhaps they might feel around for him and find him, though he is not far from each other. There isn't, I think, something in human kind that seeks a greater being.
Yeah.
Now, granted,
The ontological argument.
the
I believe.
the other beliefs probably could say the same thing, but I think the innate part is wanting to believe that there's something greater. There's something more to this life than just earth.
Yeah.
Is this all it is?
Yeah.
I mean, I live for 70 years, maybe 80 if I'm strong,
And
according to
there's
the
just
song, and that's it.
nothingness. Yeah.
That doesn't. Why?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know.
No, I think that's definitely a part of it. Because there is, I think, that an innateness of, I believe even Solomon talks about that in Ecclesiastes. I can't remember the exact reference, but I believe he makes a similar argument of that there is something just kind of naturally in man that recognizes that there is something greater than him. And obviously, when you look at the natural world, that becomes abundantly clear. I think you referenced a few episodes ago, Romans 1 and verse 20, how the creation itself is evidence that there is a God. And while that's certainly true, you're then left with the question of, okay, well then which God is it? Because like with the Athenians, there were all sorts of gods. And I believe it's there in that text in Acts 17 where it says that they would spend their whole time in nothing but to hear something new. Like they just wanted to hear about different gods and different religions
Beliefs.
and peoples and beliefs. And they had that inscription to the unknown God just in case they accidentally
one.
forgot one.
Yeah.
And so you have to, I think,
Ironically
wrestle
enough, they
with all
did.
of those questions. And I guess for me personally, one of the things that I have wrestled with in my past is if I had not been born into the home into which I was born, would I still believe the things that I believe? And I mean, to some extent, it's like, okay, well, that's not really a question I have to answer because that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like I think about that pretty regularly, and it's still something that I think about from time to time of, am I simply a product of my environment? Or is this something like and I think about Timothy in this respect, where in 2 Timothy chapter 1, Paul says that the faith that was in Timothy dwelt first in his grandmother and then in his mother, but then in him. And that concept of, yes, you might have been born in a particular environment, or in our case, all of us were raised in Christian homes. But then you have to make that decision for it to become your own.
Yeah.
Instead of simply a product of your environment. Because that's an argument that a lot of times skeptics will make of, well, if you were born in the Middle East, then you would probably be Muslim right now. You would probably practice the Islamic religion. If you were born somewhere in Asia, you might be Buddhist or Hindu right now, whatever the case may be. And so thinking about that has always, maybe not perturbed me, but it's always kind of just been a question that's been in the back of my mind of, why is it that I believe the things that I believe? Is it simply because I was raised to think this way and taught this? Or is it because I'm genuinely convicted
Convinced,
by these evidences?
Mhm.
Which is part of the reason why I read stuff like that, or
Mhm.
why we do these episodes on apologetics, or like why we had a class about it last quarter. Because those things are so, I think, very important
Mhm.
for us to look at and to remind ourselves of. Because I don't think we need to be afraid to look at other religions. Because if Christianity is true, then Christianity is true. And I mean, then that's just the end of it. It's either true or it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so we shouldn't be scared, I don't think, to look at other religions. You brought up Islam. And I would say, I mean, that's one of the religions that's interested. Well, that's going to sound very wrong. It has intrigued me the most just because of their claims about Jesus. It's like they claim that Jesus was a prophet, that he was sent from God. But then Jesus leaves no room for Muhammad or any other prophet like that after him.
Mhm.
And so it's like Islam, in my view, is kind of a self-defeating religion. Like they shoot themselves in the foot when they claim that Jesus came from God. And so I guess that's kind of what I was thinking about with all of this, because I was raised in a Christian home, and my father's a missionary, very, very strong Christian. And so this question has just been something that throughout my life I have wondered about and studied. And I do think that I am a Christian because I am convicted by these evidences. But I know a lot of people who are Christians have that same kind of question about themselves of, am I just a product of my upbringing? Or am I genuinely a believer?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I think
Yeah.
it's a fair question, because I've not been. I don't want to use the word indoctrinated, but I've not been given doctrine of other
Yeah.
things. So I don't. Yeah, I am a product of what I've been taught,
Yeah.
but I'm not blind by.
Yes.
I'm a
Yeah.
questioner.
Yeah.
I question. Well, this verse doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
What is this? So it's not like I'm just like, oh, yep, I'm
Yeah.
okay with everything,
Yeah.
because you and I have talked about
Yeah. A lot
having
of different
questions
stuff.
and
Yeah.
doubts and
Yeah.
what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And it's like, are we right? Are we wrong? Are we?
Mm-hmm.
Do we know? I mean, it's, but I do think that I know of plenty of examples, and it can be said for going the other way too. So I don't want
yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but I know plenty of examples of people that have not been raised in the church, and they are seeking the truth, and they're going from church to church, and they are like, oh, what I find here is what I see
Yeah.
pointed out to me in the
Yeah.
New Testament. I don't see this in the New Testament. And they come to that conclusion on their own. But then there are some that were raised in the
Yeah.
church like us, and they're like, I'm not convicted enough, and
Right.
I'm going to go over here because for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
answer why. You know, so I think, again, it's a personal,
Yeah.
while getting to heaven, I think is a teamwork effort.
Yeah.
And that's why the church is that support network. It is a personal journey where you need help.
Yeah.
But I still think I think you said it earlier, you have to make it your own.
Right.
You can't live on your parents' faith
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to.
And I really think that that's when it becomes an issue, is when you simply believe it because that's what you've always been taught.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that you have personally tested and have personally examined, but you've just accepted it as this is what it is. And I think that does have, I mean, it happens a lot with quote unquote Christians, but it happens with all other religions. And the thing is, there's not a single belief system that you can adhere to, Christian, non-Christian, agnostic, or atheistic. There's not a single one that you could adhere to that you don't have to be taught. But atheists and skeptics want to act like Christians are the ones that have been indoctrinated.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really think about it, they're just as indoctrinated
Yeah.
as anybody else, because they trust what
Someone
scientists or
else,
scholars or whoever
naturalism.
else has taught. They've been indoctrinated by them. And so I think really, and to me, I mean, that kind of alleviates some of that burden in my mind a little bit, because it's like, okay, everybody has to be taught whatever it is that they believe, but then you have to, as I've mentioned, you have to test it. You have to examine it. Like Paul says in 1 Thessalonians, test all things and hold fast to that which is good. And so we all have to take that responsibility to examine what we are teaching. And there are people who have been, there is a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he's a member of the Churches of Christ, and he did a seminar. I know it's been several years ago. I don't know if he's still doing this type of work, but he was raised Muslim, became an atheist, and then converted to Christianity. So he's kind of covered the gambit of it
Yes.
all. And that's kind of what we're looking at here, is we have to make sure. Now, I would say all of us are very fortunate in respect to the fact that we have been born into this environment where we were taught the legitimate truth, and that it's not simply an indoctrination or simply a blind acceptance of what has always been said, because there are these evidences, as Robbie has alluded to earlier, for Christianity that other religions can't replicate.
Mm-hmm.
And namely when it comes to the resurrection, because, I mean, that's really, in my mind, that's the key to it all. We can talk about prophecy. We can talk about all these other things. But if Jesus rose from the dead, then Christianity's true. Everything else is false. There's just no other way to think about it. And there are evidences, both historically, theologically, for the resurrection of Christ. And that's another thing, which something you said, Robbie, made me think about it. The moral consistency of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a lot of other religions, especially with, not to pick on them, but Islam, usually it's designed in such a way where especially people who are higher up in that religion gain something. But Christianity is not designed in that way. Christianity has an even playing field, and the way
Judaism was kind of like that,
Yeah.
right? The Pharisees
yeah,
were.
yeah, and in Christianity, nobody gets away with anything because of their status or because of who they are. And that's kind of the point. I mean, God makes the point in the Old Testament, but he really hammers it home in the New, It doesn't matter who your ancestors were.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what your name is. Doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. You either follow me and you will be rewarded. But if you don't, there's no excuses for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Christianity, just from a practical standpoint, it calls people to a standard of morality that no other religion does. And I think it's one of the only religions really that can bring about true change for the better for the world. Like you think about the United States of America, part of the reason why slavery was abolished was because of Christian principles. And that's true.
Christian groups too.
Yeah, Christian groups. And that's because of that standard of morality and the teachings of Christianity that are preserved. And so I think there are those evidences, but I think there's also just like practical reasons like that as far as why we all ought to be Christians. And in so doing, as we all have already talked about, if we remain faithful, one day we'll be able to enjoy heaven.
Yeah, I mean, heaven, I think, would probably be number one. But I mean, there's different aspects of Christianity. As you guys were kind of walking through yours, I was thinking of this too. As you know, we believe in the existence of God. At least, you know, speaking for myself, because you know, something has to come from something.
Yeah.
Has to, you know, there's the law of cause and effect has to play in there. And then when you look at the design and the intricate details within nature, within society, within our own bodies, I mean, no matter how you want to slice, I mean, there's just too much design to think that this all just happened because of chance, or that, you know, adaptation after adaptation, just, you know, this is what we're left with. But something has to come from something. And then the moral consistency and the values that are within God's word. You know, most civilizations are kind of based on those things. You know, equal justice and equality, unconditional love, you know, living peaceably among people, telling the truth and being honest. Like, there's just so many things that the Bible teaches about, and many world religions have, you know, copied a lot of those things too. You know, when you think of pretty much any major world religion, you know, Islam was in the 600s and 700s. I think he was born in like 614 or 622 AD, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, centuries after Christianity was established. Confucianism, I believe, was in like, I'm a little fuzzy on this one, maybe like the 400s. You know, Buddhism and Hinduism, I think, are kind of in a different, you know, belief system altogether almost. They're not really monotheistic.
No.
You know, you have several throughout human history have had several polytheistic religions, like the Greeks and the Romans and you know, Sumerians and everyone else before them. Most people were polytheistic in the ancient world. But, you know, there's not really any tangible evidence of that. So, you know, I think that it points to having a God, and that then you have to decide, okay, well, which one is it? And I think the, you know, consistency of God's word, when we look at prophecy and unity and the different authors, when we look at the historical evidence of the Bible that's been confirmed, archaeological evidence, science that's talked about in the Bible decades, centuries, maybe even 1,000 years plus before it's, quote, discovered by the scientists.
Yeah.
You know, I look at all of those, and then, again, the life of Christ, and the fact that if he was in his grave, we would be having a completely different discussion. But the fact that miraculously, not even talking about the miracles that he performed while he was here to prove that he was from God and that it was true, the fact that he did the ultimate miracle within, of resurrecting from the dead. And so I think of that. Even a few other things as you guys were talking about, like what I think separates Christianity, you know, God's unconditional love, his unconditional forgiveness, his mercy, his grace for us. Even Ryan, I think, talked about this, like the community of believers and Christians. You know, that continues to be a big motivation for me, just being able to have so many in the church that you can go to for advice, for encouragement, for support, and for love. I'm not saying that you can't get that from other religions, but I know it to be true of Christianity at every point in my life. And even, answered prayer, I think. There have been various things that I've prayed for that God's answered in his own time. I was telling the middle school class I taught them today, I had a bad four-wheeler accident when I was a freshman in high school. And I mean, I literally, as soon as I landed, I thought I was dead. And here I am 18 years later. Forget what year that would have been. That would have been 2014 or something like that. So 12. I don't know. Don't feel like mathing right now, but
It must have been a bad accident.
But you're not.
yeah, still. But even being able to grow up in a home like you had talked about, you develop your own faith, but growing up in a home that brought you up with those values. So, looks like we may be needing to cut off early. So, did you guys have anything else you wanted to add on?
Is that where is that?
I think that's.
I think it's just
your
weather alert on my
phone.
phone. There goes Ryan.
I'm on silent too, so that must.
Mine was
yeah.
too.
Yeah, it must overpower the.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
Anything y'all wanted to add on?
Sorry,
to that
we're
one
having a tornado warning, so
So please excuse that. I'll try to maybe just cut the volume down on that section or something. We'll figure that
see
out.
how loud it is
Yeah.
when you play
Yeah.
it. But
So
I don't. I think there is something to. I think that's so. For instance, I think when I know we're getting ready to end, but when Christ told the disciples to go and teach, and then he said, "You're going to start in Jerusalem, and then you're going to go to Judea, Samaria, and the utter most part of the world." I think he knew that there were going to be regions that did not teach Christianity, and there were going to be regions that did, and it would be the responsibility to not only spread it here. I mean, we have people here that don't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. We don't have to go to
Right.
Mozambique or Vanuatu, where Aaron and Cindy go, or where your brother and dad go in the Pacific. I mean, it's good that they do, but I mean, we have the same, and that's why I think with AMC, the responsibility is to teach. And I think to your point, there's a doctrine no matter what religion it is, but which one is true?
Yeah.
And I guess that's to your point. We believe what we believe. So,
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Well, I guess we will stop here for today. Hope that this has been interesting and maybe beneficial to you in some way. But if you have any questions about anything, you can email us at theconclusionofthematter@yahoo.com. But I guess for now, for Why Are We Christians, we can say this is the
conclusion of the matter.